Hey everybody, this is the weekly update. This is Peter Cunha, broker owner of Open Doors, with my good friend David Baum from Cross Country Mortgage.
Peter, hello everybody.
So we've been submitting a lot of offers for buyers. One of the things that are currently involved in this kind of a piggyback on last week's call, pre-approval versus pre-quals, when submitting the offer. But one of the things that I'm noticing that are working really well is how quickly can you get a commitment letter?
So that will depend obviously on how fast the borrower gets all the supporting documentation, right? We'd like to have everything up front. So that way, once we have disclosures e-sign, we would like to get the file into underwriting immediately. We could have a commitment in as early as a couple of days. Now that's going to be a conditional loan approval. A true mortgage commitment is not going to be issued until the appraisal is back in, right? Most of the time, what they're looking for is that conditional loan approval to meet that commitment date. That means the loan's been fully approved in underwriting, barring they get the remaining conditions in, as well as a satisfactory appraisal. So appraisals are taking a little bit longer to come in right now. They're just, I think, from doing a lot of extra diligence and probably trying to find comps and things like that to support sales prices. But in general, a commitment 2-3 weeks is not out of the ordinary. Like I said, a conditional loan approval, we could have that within a week potentially, as long as all documentation for income, assets, that kind of stuff is in, that we can get that into underwriting right away.
Right. And I think that this is the important part is I'm hearing a lot of people saying, hey, yeah, I can get you a commitment letter in 10 days, but it really comes down to the borrower. How quickly can they get all the paperwork in? I know with a lot of my clients, they are self-employed, let's say, contractor types, and they'll delay their taxes until they know how much money they have to show on their income taxes, which is, it's kind of it is what it is. It's within the system. It's how it works, and a lot of times it's just how long can their accountants get their taxes done, right? Because they've been delayed, and they just want to show the right, so they can qualify for the house. I always say that these guys are typically the ones that can do that. The work on the house is cheaper. Like there's a lot of benefits of being a contractor. This is one of them. So, and usually they can typically afford more of a house than the lender you guys kind of approve them for. So it's just, I'm just seeing the trend is basically this. It's we were going over it before. Over ask, typically no home sale contingencies. Inspections are for informational purposes, typically the mechanical, structural, environmental type stuff. Are you seeing a lot of people offering appraisal gaps?
We're seeing some people obviously put in saying, I'll give, we'll waive up to X number of dollars on the appraisal. Whether it's, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, or I mean, as long as they have the assets to cover, right, everything, an underwriter's not going to question what's in the contract and those contractual provisions, right, about that stuff. Really, that's what it boils down to. So as long as the borrower can satisfy coming up with a difference in the event the house does underappraise, there won't be any issue, right? They can't, you basically can't write a check that can't be cashed in essence, right? You got to make sure that you've got the assets to cover any differences, so you're not going to have any issues. From an appraisal stuff, a lot of things are appraising, a handful of stuff still not, right? So, I mean, if you're going $100,000 over full price, that might be a problem, right? Because it might not appraise. So, they're going to need to have that sufficient funds to cover everything. So, as long as they have sufficient funds, shouldn't have any issue.
Right. And what, again, I was asking you about this the other day. Another one is that sellers need time to relocate and get out of their house. Seeing very common in a lot of these offers, can you give us a UNO, even if it's for a week or 2 weeks? Uh,
Mhm.
my question to you was how long legally can you give a UNO?
Sure, good. That's a great question. So, typically for conventional financing, even government financing, right? You're signing paperwork that says that you are taking occupancy within 60 days. So technically, they can go up to 60 days from a use and occupancy. Obviously, the borrowers don't typically want to wait that long. However, that could be a determining sticking point of a seller maybe taking their offer
Right.
if they are, because the seller side, they want to be able to close as fast as possible, put the money in the bank, and not have any contingency. If they're don't have an immediate rush to go or can't find something, that does give the seller obviously cushion to not have to go get a hotel or not have to go move in with the in-laws or move in with any friends, right? So it does allow them to stay there, whether the borrower is, you know, getting paid rent from the seller, whether they're offering, hey, we'll give you a free couple weeks on the UNO if you need more time. It's X number of dollars per day up to a certain point. We're seeing multiple ways of people trying to tie that in. Um, typically if they are going to receive rent per diem, it is just whatever the mortgage payment is for taxes, insurance, principal, interest divided by 30 days or on a monthly basis to get a per diem day. And however many days it is, it's that times the per diem date. And they pay rent that amount. They hold money in escrow, right? Obviously, make sure that when the seller moves out, they don't damage the place or anything like that. But typically, those are things that we're seeing some people put in contracts to try to make it more appealing for the seller to take their offer and not be rushed. And to have a little bit of comfort knowing that they can close, they can put the money in the bank, they can remove any contingencies they may have if they can't qualify carrying both or whatever. Yeah, I mean that's definitely a good question, a good point that some people are putting that in there to try to help win bids. You're,
Yeah, and another thing is just again, it's just we were going through this before, like just looking at a sample, a real life sample of an offer that I just submitted. It used to be like 3 bullet points, like the as is purchase, kind of blanket statement there, the no home sale contingency, um, and just being over ask for the most part, right? So one of the interesting parts is like now I'm literally 7 bullet points of what we're willing to offer, and we're not even touching where I've had people say because they know that the seller has done some work to the house without permits, hey, we'll take care of the C of O, which I think is deadly, right? Depending on what town it is. You got to really know your townships. But I think that you have to be creative in this market. I think this market is, even with the higher interest rates, more difficult than we were when COVID started. And I don't see a decline anytime soon. So,
no, I mean market is still very strong, even with where rates are right now. Obviously, I mean there is heavy demand on the for buyers right now.
right.
Very limited supply, right? Which until interest rates come down, there was a great article from the MBA conference a week ago, and they're saying that more than 80% of the people in the country that have mortgages, the rates are below 4% right now. Which means that they don't have a whole lot of reason to try to, sell unless they have to sell for some reason. They're staying in their houses longer right now, which is hurting that supply of inventory. So until interest rates maybe do come down, more inventory will hit, right? Unfortunately, once that happens, even more buyers are going to want to come into it. So it's still going to be, we've got a surplus of buyers and not enough inventory. As the inventory rises and rates drop, more people will want to try to buy. So it's still going to be tricky. However, it will free up that inventory at some point in time as rates do drop.
Yeah, the other thing that I wanted to add is home builder confidence levels are still at historically, like not historically low, but still at low levels.
Mhm.
Um, it edged up a little bit, but not by much, in March, I guess, but it's still at low levels. And until builders decide that they're going to build homes, the cost of that, the cost to build a home is through the roof.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I do think we're going to see some sort of a rebound, I think, in the second half of this year. We're still fighting off this inflation and heading into that potential recession and things of that nature. Um, obviously, I think it's not going to get drastically better, probably at least until next year. But I do think that we're going to start to see some improvement at some point in time this year, towards the second half, maybe even the third, fourth quarter. Things will start to get better, and then heading into next year with the election year, I think things will continue to get better. However, it's still very challenging for buyers right now, and it's you. I feel for a lot of the buyers that are out there because they're all going through the same thing, and they're all getting rejected, kissing a bunch of frogs on these houses, right? Because usually, when I say that, it's making an offer on one house, getting a rejection, making an offer on another one, getting rejected. And when they don't find 5, 10, 15 houses and they keep getting rejected, it's that much more frustrating, and it's either making them doing something that they may or may not want to do, like offering all those extra, waiving a lot of those other things, appraisal, inspections, this, that, whatever, and maybe not having a little extra protection, but they're doing whatever they can to get a place, and the people that are willing to waive all that, unfortunately, they're the ones that seem to be, winning or having the cash to pay for cash or put that much more down or anything. But for a buyer that's a first time home buyer with not a lot of money down payment, does not have assets to cover a gap in an appraisal, or does not have an under, any of that stuff, it makes it challenging.
I agree with you. I mean, what I'm seeing on my end is a lot of fatigue. What's it going to take? They came in. We looked at a house yesterday. It was just a free for all. It was in brick, 315,000. House isn't worth that much. It's a little bungalow cottage, I guess, but it had a nice backyard. It had a full garage, and I'm going, just that alone is worth something. And the house wasn't that bad. 3 bedroom, 1 bath, doesn't have air conditioning. The floors are a little slanted. Probably get close to 4. Listed at 315. So it's
85,000 potentially over full price.
yeah, of course. On percentage wise, you're looking at what is it? 60 some odd percent. Not 60, 30 some odd percent.
I mean, yeah, 25% probably
35.
over
Yeah.
315 plus 315 plus 25% will put you 393. So yeah, probably close to like 27% over, it might be.
Which is the tough part, right? So and again, not the nicest house, it's but it's a house. And again, what I'm telling people is you might feel like you're playing 2024 prices right now, but they're only going higher. Until we see more supply, which I just don't see it until interest rates come down significantly, which don't see that happening. And then I also don't see home builders picking up the slack to make up for, arguably the last 10 years of underdevelopment. So
Yeah, I mean, in our immediate area, there's not as much land as some other states or parts of New Jersey too. So, there can't just be, you know, thousands of homes being built if
Yep,
there's no land for it, right? So, that's another part that we're, you know, that we're dealing with in our area. I mean, there are some, but it's um, not as easy as, you know, being in somewhere more rural where there's plenty of land.
sure. I've been looking down in Knoxville, Tennessee personally. So
Yeah.
anyway, Dave, I gotta get running. I
Yep.
thank you for your time, brother. And let's hope for the best. I'm rooting for my buyers out there. Congrats to you sellers out there. Um, I have some people that are just waiting for the school year to be finished for listing their house. So, let's see how that goes.
Yeah,
How do people get in touch with you?
oh, best way to reach me, 732-853-4969, or hit me up via email, david.baum@ccm.com.
That's it. I'll talk to you later, buddy. Bye.
Take care. Have a great day.